Wireless and cellular networks are part of almost any conversation about next-generation communications networks, but how much do we know about the theories of wireless communications? Dr. Michael DeLomo and Dr. Ricken Tacker with RF Academics will update us on the success of part one of their workshop series and tell us what to expect from the second workshop on Wi-Fi and cellular offloading. And Michael and Ricken, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Well, of course, we're talking today about the wireless and cellular network workshop series. Of course, you've already completed workshop number one, as we mentioned, but we're going to be talking today about workshop number two. But before we do that, Michael, I want to ask you, what was your experience with the fundamentals of RF and cellular workshop?
Well, I think workshop number one went very, very well. We had a good group of students, a good group of good audience, and interaction with the audience was very, very, very good, very productive. We were able to answer everyone's questions. I think we were able to present RF and cellular concepts to a broad group of people, ranging from technical people to managers to newcomers to the field. And the TIA were excellent hosts, and I believe all of the participants got a lot out of the workshop, at least as they indicated in their comments.
Ricken, I want to ask you about workshop number two. Of course, that's on Wi-Fi and cellular offloading. Can you give us sort of a primer for that?
Sure. So in the first workshop, our focus was cellular networks. In terms of networking language, it's called wide area network. Now we are actually going to focus more on the local area network, and that's actually Wi-Fi. Now in the second workshop, in the title, as you can see, there are two elements, Wi-Fi and cellular offloading or data offloading. So we are going to focus mainly, we'll start the workshop mainly with fundamentals of Wi-Fi. We're going to talk about all the technologies and all the standards behind Wi-Fi, and we are going to actually get more technical details behind all these standards. Second part of the workshop, we are going to talk about data offloading and how cellular operators nowadays actually use Wi-Fi networks to offload their data and free up their licensed spectrum, because Wi-Fi is actually operating on unlicensed spectrum.
Michael, a lot of our audience is in the cellular and networking domain. If that's the case, then why should they attend a Wi-Fi workshop?
Well, right now, when you think about networks, people usually think of two kinds of networks. There's my cell phone that operates on, AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile or some other cellular provider's network, and there's my Wi-Fi devices when I'm in my house or in my office or in a coffee shop. But that's changing, and soon people are going to think about, a network, and my device will have to figure out where it is. Now, to get there, and as this happens, cellular providers already are having to offload their data onto these Wi-Fi and local area networks. After all, as Ricken pointed out, the providers are operating on licensed spectrum, and that's a scarce resource. We discussed that in workshop number one. But in order to give users the services they're going to want, the video on demand, the more innovative networking, social networking and business networking applications, they're going to need to offload this data onto local area networks to provide users the throughput required. And newer technologies like 802.11ac are going to move us forward into this future.
Ricken, Wi-Fi and cellular offloading workshop, what are some of the topics being covered there?
Right, sure. So first thing I want to mention, just like the first workshop, there are no prerequisites for this workshop. If you don't have any background, that's absolutely all right. That's where actually we are going to start. We are going to start with the history of wireless LAN, how this Wi-Fi technologies evolve. In fact, last year we celebrated 15th birthday for Wi-Fi. So everything started back in late 90s and early 2000, and the interesting part is that all those technologies are still in practice. All the new standards we are developing, they are actually backward compatible with those old standards. So we are going to actually start our workshops with starting with 802.11 A, B, and G technologies, and then actually we are going to evolve and say, okay, well, what was presented, what happened around 2007? There are two interesting things happened in 2007. Wi-Fi evolved from regular wireless network to a high throughput wireless network. 802.11n technology was developed. At around the same time, iPhone came in, all the smartphone came in, and cellular operators suddenly started grabbing the attention, saying, okay, well, we need to actually utilize Wi-Fi networks so that we can actually cater all these data demands from all these cellular, all these smartphones, and so that we can offload this data on the unlicensed spectrum, and we can utilize our licensed spectrum for people who are actually in need and not into Wi-Fi zone area. So for this workshop, we are going to talk about all these practices around the industry, not only the engineering detail, but also how the efficient deployment is done for Wi-Fi as well. And then later part, we are going to talk about the more advanced technologies which evolve later on in Wi-Fi industry, and that is 802.11 AC, how offloading is actually being catered, and also how deployment and security parameters are addressed right now in enterprise world.
Ricken, you talked about the 802.11 standard. The 802.11 AC standard specifically is an up-and-coming Wi-Fi standard. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. So when you say up and coming, in fact, I want to mention that the standard was ratified in December 2013. So it's actually out there. However, the adoption in the industry is actually started picking up. This technology is considered as very high throughput for 802.11, and we are actually suggesting a throughput of 200 Mbps, megabits per second. AC is going to actually bring that to 1 Gbps. So you can imagine what kind of speed and network capability we are going to actually expect out of that. The vendors are already out there to offer 802.11 AC-based access points. However, consumer electronics actually have started recently picking up. So all the smartphones and tablets, they are actually now coming with AC chip in it. So we are going to actually study technical aspects of AC as well. We are going to see what is a multi-user MIMO, how channel bonding and channel aggregation is done, what kind of advanced modulation schemes are actually being deployed. But everything is actually going to be explained based on where we are actually picking. So starting from fundamentals all the way to AC, we are going to study all the technical aspects of those.
Michael, I want to ask you what's next after workshop number 2. I know you're going to be at our TIA 2015 Network of the Future conference in June, and then I know that you have some plans to do some workshops after that time.
Yes. First of all, for those who missed it, we're going to be at TIA 2015 and do the RF and cellular workshop to make a baseline. And then we'll have 3 workshops after that. The third workshop is on DAS and small cell systems, which is the growth area for the current cellular networks and future cellular networks. After that, we'll have workshop number 4 on microwave systems and backhaul. After all, it's great that you have these 4th generation networks generating 100 megabits per second and more to the user, between the user and the base station, but how do you get that data to the base station to begin with? That's where the microwave networks come in to help with that. And then workshop number 5 is going to be on LTE and LTE Advanced, and the current state of cellular technology and where we're heading in the immediate future.
We're glad we can capture, here at TI now, we're glad we can capture some of the, I guess, primer conversation for these workshops. We're also glad that we can host your workshops here at TIA. I think it'll be an interesting change of environment to do it down in Dallas at our 2015 conference, so we're looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.